Hey lads, welcome back to another Alcholics Unanimous video. Not only that, but it's the first scripted video since the last one, which was my first video. Also, I haven't had much to drink tonight, just 4 beers, a cocktail, and a whole load of sleep deprivation, which makes me feel drunk without drinking. At least I'm not drinking, Brian. Okay, but seriously though, I had a cocktail on drop for the first time. That shit slaps harder than Chris Brown.
Oh, he needs some milk!
So, you read the title of the video. This is about the best and worst jobs I've worked. Now, before I get on to my favourite job, it's not all going to be glaze. I enjoyed working there, but it doesn't mean it was always good. So let's talk about my favourite job. However, I didn't read my contract, so I don't know if I'm under NDA, so all I'll say about the actual place I worked is that it's a restaurant where the staff are purposely rude to customers. That's all you get, but if you know, you know. So let me give you a rundown of what my actual job was. At this restaurant, I was behind the bar with a couple other people, and we had a load of floor staff. While we had to give good customer service, we also had to act rude and unhelpful to the customers. They either knew this coming in, or they came in with someone who didn't know and were in for a big shock when the person at the concierge desk looked them dead in the eyes and said, "Fuck do you want?" Next up, server leads them to their table and accidentally drops the menus on the floor. And when they order drinks, that's my time to shine. We did all the stuff that restaurants do, juice, soft drinks, beer, etc. But the worst thing we ever had to do were fucking milkshakes. And it's not like a McDonald's where you just melt ice cream in a microwave and put it back in the fridge. We had to blend that shit ourselves. We had 6 flavours and only 4 blenders. We have vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, caramel, Biscoff and Oreo, and so long as the flavours didn't contrast, you could get away with giving the mixtures a quick rinse before doing a new flavour. Then you had gluten allergies. I can't remember which blender we used for the Biscoff and Oreo ones. Those are biscuits, and we've been doing them all day. Well, gotta sterilise everything. That's an extreme example of milkshakes being a pain, but the biggest pain is that they took so fucking long to make. But we just had to send out other drinks and wait until it was in a good state to serve. And I don't know what kind of black magic fuckery would happen, but if you left them for like a minute, that shit would start to separate like the blood and the water in Jesus' crucified body, amen. But that's another thing, it was so hard to get drinks out. Sometimes we would literally be up to our necks in orders. I mean literal meters of tickets, with anywhere between 2 and 14 drinks per order. We'd make these drinks in record time, put them on a tray with a ticket saying where it was going, ding the bell to get the server's attention. We'd look back after 10 minutes, and that shit would still be there. The thing is though, it's like people always ask me, in and out of work, how you can just be rude to customers and make it entertaining. The first correction is that you're not actually being rude, you're being funny. You're telling jokes ironically at the expense of the customer, yourself, or the business. And even though you tend to use the same lines a lot, sometimes the jokes can just write themselves when the customers are being standoffish, try to outdo your rudeness, etc. Or they just they just look like pedophiles. But the best part was just fucking with people. Well, there was one kid like 13 or 14, and this kid kept asking for tap water like every 10 minutes. So the next time he asked, I filled up a 4-pint pitcher with water and pretty much every fruit slice we had. Plopped that fucker in front of him and said, "Is that enough water for you? If you finish it before you go home, you get to have drunk all that water for free." Now, I've gone on about working in the customers, but honestly, the best part about working there was the other staff. Despite all the people being snide, rude, and downright fucking malicious to all these customers day in and day out, they were genuinely some of the nicest people I knew. Some of them I still speak to and hang out with. Oddly, I'd say the best part of the day was when we closed up, collected our tips, and spent them all at the Wetherspoons next door. What I tended to notice at this job, unlike others, is that everyone was so open with each other. Any other job, even if you were really good mates with someone, you don't really open up that much. But because we'd spent our entire day acting, I don't think anyone could be bothered to keep putting up walls afterwards. And I'd say the main reason we all got along so well was because pretty much every day at work was a fucking battle. Not just with the customers, but with the most incompetent upper management team I've seen anywhere. Not even a Hallmark movie with the bad guys being the management team would ever be on this level of incompetence, and what's just like a single word for like shooting yourself in the foot? Well, let's just say every day they were handed a gun, and before the person who gave them the gun could give them any instructions, they'd have already mag-dumped their feet. It was a running joke pretty much since we opened that we'd inevitably get shut down. The restaurant was only open for about 6 months, and by the time month 5 had rolled around, it was pretty much a ship of Theseus. Or for my old head English viewers, Trigger's broom.
This old broom has had 17 new heads and 14 new handles in its time.
How the hell can it be the same bloody broom then?
So, one of the worst parts of my job was right when we started, we had a bar supervisor that somehow always woke up on the wrong side of bed and immediately stepped in dog shit. I would name drop them, but because their first name is so unique, I'm not actually going to do that. The first shift I had, she was already pissed off for no good reason. Was really cranky during the shift, would do everything in her power as bar supervisor to relegate milkshakes to anyone else. And then there was the glass washer incident. On a side note, every bar I've worked at has this same glass washer, and it's absolute ass. It pretty much needs cleaning every single time it's used, because if it's left for anything more than 2 hours, it smells like pure, unfettered ass. And everywhere I've worked has the same glass washer, and it never gets fucking cleaned. So every time that you use it, it's just like a fucking SpongeBob clip. So to clean this glass washer, you basically have to manually clean all the small pieces separately, but the main glass washer basically requires you to clean the whole inside with soap. So the first time I do that, but you also have to wash it all off, so I have a genius idea. Instead of washing it all off, which could take an extra 5 to 10 minutes, I could just run the washer again, just wash it all off. As I'm about to do it, supervisor doesn't really care. I put that bitch on to run, and when it's done, there's fucking soap foam everywhere. Didn't work the way I'd hoped. Anyone else would have just said, oh well, never mind, just gotta clean it up. This bitch deadass says, next time listen to me, that's why I'm supervisor. Bruh, you had no objection, and then got mad at me for it backfiring. Also, you're a bar supervisor at a gimmick restaurant. Big fucking whoop. Anyway, my ass was defo snitching because that's just fucking unnecessarily rude. And because of that, I now think you're a massive cunt. So, I finally get my HR mandated half-assed apology from her, where she didn't actually say sorry and continued to be a massive cunt afterwards anyway. Like, imagine having unironic beef with an autist. This is literally only achievable by being an old high school teacher. And the fucking excuse every time for, like, anything was, I'm sorry, I lack empathy. My brother in Christ, no one wants you to be empathetic, we just want you to be respectful. And it's funny because she kept saying that she didn't want to come across as, an angry black woman. But she was never helping herself break free from the stereotype, because at every possible opportunity, she was literally being an angry black woman. There's one shift in particular where I was working a 12-hour. It was me and one other person in the first 6 hours. And you know what? It was doing alright. I was feeling good. Then as soon as she arrived, all the life was fucking drained from me instantly. Instead of working on the bar, I relegated myself to be bar back, which, restock, just so I didn't have to be anywhere near her for more than 2 minutes. The only bit of the shift that actually lightened my spirits was when she was barking some sort of orders at me, and I just said, "Yes, mein Führer," under my breath. She didn't hear, but my colleague did and thought it was fucking funny. So at least there's that. I also found out they complained to the general manager about me and asked to not share shifts with me, and the GM told them, essentially, to get fucked. So they're the unreasonable one, in their eyes. Also because the general manager liked me more. And then, finally, our bar supervisor was about to get the boot on their last shift. They showed up late for the third time in a row, without their apron, and whilst I was driving our new general manager home, she told me she was firing that bitch like a week before. And you know what? I was fucking celebrating. And to let you all know how much I was so fucking glad she was getting the boot, she was the sole reason I got alcohol poisoning. I had 2 12-hour shifts with her in a row, got home after, downed 7 double shots in half an hour, and had my first and worst hangover ever. So to say I was glad this bitch was heading out forcefully was the greatest news I've ever heard in my life. Also, her girlfriend was fucking fit, and they were living together, and then broke up after she got the boot. Our next bar manager, though, was fucking useless, and the worst thing is, I was supposed to be their next bar manager, but I relinquished my role because I was, and still am at uni. Well, even if I chose to be a bar supervisor, I'd still be out of a job now. I'm gonna try and do a recap of all the stupid shit that happened, but from this point forward, a lot of this stuff is alleged, because it hasn't been 100% proven, and I don't want to be taken to court for defamation. But considering when we got shut down, the venue owner stole the CCTV footage, which is a crime, it might allegedly hold some weight. So, our first manager wasn't a very good manager. To them, it wasn't necessarily a shift we were working, more like being the host of a party that would also party with the guests, if you get what I mean. They then got fired because of some reasons I don't want to say in case I get sued for defamation, and then ran away with £600 in tips, which we still haven't received to this day. There was also a point where they temporarily quit and got their job back 2 weeks later, but that's a different discussion. Our co-manager was a fucking idiot who either had a wife's boyfriend situation, or had a wife who he left for a boyfriend. He wasn't worth his weight in shit, had no backbone, and when we got new draft beers, he got a really niche one that only he liked so he could steal stock from it. He should have been fired a long time ago, but when our first manager got the boot, he was the only management left, so the other management couldn't really fire him now, could they? Our first head chef also quit a couple months in, and his last words were, "I'm going to the pub." Then, we had the man himself, the venue owner. I'm 99% certain his job was some sort of psyop to make the business fail, because every bad decision he made was because of him. Not to mention all the alleged sexual harassment. But due to an inspection of the place, because one of the staff explained to, I believe, a 6-year-old what a blowjob was in excruciating detail in front of their parents, it was discovered that a substantial amount of drug traces were found throughout the premises, including being found on a baby-changing station. The company then said they weren't allowed to use the licensing of said restaurant chain and let him go. So they then changed the name and theme of the restaurant before everything got shut down. You know what? In December I stopped working there. Not because I quit or got fired, but simply because they stopped giving me shifts. I went back after they closed and saw one of those arcade basketball machines, and then it dawned on me. My hours probably got axed to pay for it. To the venue owner, a basketball machine was more valuable than I was. Also, doesn't help that 90% of the bar team had their hours cut to make room for a new bar team, reason being, we could all see through his bullshit. But he couldn't fire us without a good reason, because that would also be a crime. Joke's on him, I didn't quit even though I went 3 months without a shift before the restaurant got shut down. And that right there is the best job I've ever worked. So if you think that's bad, haha, just wait until I tell you about the worst job I've worked. So, technically I'm not under NDA since I didn't sign a contract for these free jobs, but I'm a sellout and they pay really well and I don't want them to see this. And I don't want them to sue me for defamation, even though what I'm saying is the truth. But if you want a clue as to what job it is I worked, if you were to poison the water there, you'd effectively eliminate 75% of the top 1% of South England. That's my only clue. And there's also a lot of racing. You can have that one too. So, to put it into perspective how much I hate working at this place, before I worked here, I was working at a plant warehouse at the heat peak of summer, battling with itchy eye hay fever, and dealing with plants that gave me rashes. I came home every day feeling better about myself there than a single day of working at this new place. The first event I worked at was a horse racing event they had. I had signed on late and only worked on the last day, which at the time seemed like a bummer, but looking back on it, I'm glad it was only for one day. My job was to stand in the corner of a hallway of a place that connected two restaurants, that also have the toilets in it. My job was to literally stop stupid people from going in the restaurant they didn't have the right ticket for. That was my actual job. But, you know, what was my actual job? Let me tell you. The only questions I actually had to answer that day, the dreaded, where are the toilets? Well, you would know if, instead of looking to your right at me, you looked to your left, where it literally says the word toilet. That's right, for a whole 12 hours, I was asked where the toilets were by every other person. But if they came into the corridor I was in, and looked literally the other direction, their question would have been answered immediately. For 12 hours. So, that was pretty mid. But that was, only once over the entire year. Then I did 2 events in 1 year, and that was that was truly something. I mean, I knew a long time ago from working in hospitality that the majority of the general public are stupid, entitled, emotionless cunts. But these next 2 events I worked at best made me worry for the future of humanity, and at worst, sent me into mental breakdown mode. So either in June or July, I worked there again for the supercar event for 4 days of 12-hour shifts. In an event of nothing but showing Lamborghinis, McLarens, and other shit like that, my job was to stand in the most isolated corner of the entire event, and every now and then, I had to block off a path. This path, bear in mind, was only a couple meters, but we had to block it off due to the stupidity of the drivers, who the year before spun out at 10 miles an hour and hit a fence with people behind it. So every couple hours, we had to block off a path in case stupid, rich, entitled morons couldn't potentially injure themselves. So my job was essentially to keep the gene pool unaffected and to not let nature take its course. Bear in mind, me and one other person that I just about got along with were in this one spot for 12 hours a day, 4 days a week, doing this exact same shit. And the amount of people who are fucking outraged that they couldn't walk down this path for a grand total of 10 minutes was bad enough. But the amount of people who just got so fucked off after 2 minutes, they just pushed past us and went anyway, was just simply... fucking... why? Like, obviously you aren't going to die or nothing, we're just being paid slightly more than minimum wage to make sure you don't accidentally die. Can you not just wait 5 minutes? Literally, the only good thing about that job was our supervisor knew this was the worst job there, and let us have paid breaks every half hour. So, that may not sound bad, but believe me, it was. We now move over to the final event that made me lose faith in humanity as a whole, and made me have a damn near mental breakdown. So the last day of the year was an old car show. My role now was working in the VIP section. Believe me, I thought it was important, they bigged it all up over the phone, but it's literally the same job I've been doing these last 2 events, but this time I literally get a hat. That's right, I get a fucking bowler hat for this one different role. I'm putting that in air quotes, but you can't see that. So I'm now working in the VIP section. First day, I was doing brake rotations, which wasn't bad. Except for the fact I had no choice but to stand still for the entire day. And for me, standing still for 12 hours does more damage than walking for 12 hours. So for 12 hours, I was going between different bouncer positions, even though none of us working there had any kind of bouncer experience. So yeah, day 1 was pretty mid. The main issue was because there was a car race every 30 minutes. There'd be cars passing every minute, and it was fucking impossible to hear anything anyone was saying. It was like an unfunny Family Guy bit. God, speaking to you is as hard as trying to speak to a colleague at... Bruh. So, as I was saying, P. Diddy didn't... which required me to shoot all the... But then Jeffrey Epstein swooped in, which resulted in the downfall of Yugoslavia. And then the Children's Hospital... The end. Oh man, I really hope everyone heard the full story. Day 2, I was moved over to this one, very much isolated section of the event that only photography and VIP were allowed access to. That one I maintained pretty well. Something I did notice about the general public was damn near 1,000 people were there. The charity stand set up, and I think over the course of the day less than 10 people had actually given to charity, so bear in mind, these tickets could cost upwards of £100. More than 99% of people couldn't even donate a single pound. I felt so bad I just donated a £5 myself. Not because the lady with the bucket was fit or anything, but during that day I turned down over £120 worth of bribes to get into the VIP access. Now an extra £120 would be nice. It would, be a fair payment for working in this part of the event, but £120 wasn't worth my credibility. My credibility is worth £121 and a Taco Bell quesadilla box. Final day, same shit as the first day, but everything seems so much longer. Got an extra £20 worth of bribes, but at this point, I'm beyond caring. Just for reference, I did turn it down. Despite the fact I'm supposed to be locking down a VIP area and I've been turning down bribes, you'd be more likely to get past me if you just said you needed to get in, even without credentials. I just care so little at this point. And by the last day, I've been doing so much standing still and getting snapped up by supervisors for leaning on a wall that my legs had turned to jelly and my feet felt like I was standing on Legos, and that's kind of it. My whole reason for being employed at that job is to combat other people's stupidity, and considering most people at this place are in the top 1% in South England, you would have thought they'd been a lot smarter and considerate, but like I say, I have never had to deal with such stupid and more entitled customers ever that can't take no, or it's just my job for an answer. Pretty much everyone I worked with there said, I'm never doing this again so long as I live. And I was like, yeah, put it there. So if this mystery place actually watches it, don't think to not have me work there again. Just do better. Even though I made away with just over £420, that's what seems right for one day's worth of dealing with nothing but pure, unadulterated bullshit. Not free. Oh, and as for this mental breakdown I had, whilst I was driving back and inevitably getting stuck in traffic, I got caught in the loop of saying, what's 9 plus 10? 21? You stupid. No, I'm not. What's 9 plus 10? 21? You stupid. No, I'm not. What's 9 plus 10? 21? You stupid. No, I'm not. What's 9 plus 10? 21? You stupid. No, I'm not. What's 9 plus 10? 21? You stupid. No, I'm not. For about 5 minutes. But you really know what sucked the most. I didn't feel like I was working towards anything. When I was working in that plant warehouse, I was working for 3 things. I wanted a gun, a ninja sword, and I wanted the money to take out a girl I liked on a date. I only managed to get one thing. You can guess what I bought and what I didn't. I'll give you 2 clues as to what I got and what I didn't. I didn't get my ninja sword. And here's a picture of me. Go figure. Another subject for a sober and scripted video once I can be bothered. But anyway, in conclusion, communism etopyota, stavit like, comment here, e pop no reading. Yeah, subtitles will be reversed. God, I'm gonna kill myself.